It's time for ACC Central, presented by Just Means Less.
I drive into right. It's enough. It's back. And it's gone for the cycle. It's a walk-off grand slam. Florida State wins it.
Hosted by Monty Taylor.
In the air, center field. Moore is under it. And on to Omaha for the Cardinals.
Micah Butel.
Fly ball driven into left field. Smith, does he do it? He does! A walk-off homer by Ken Smith.
And Nick Dioli.
Gets it down. Here comes Mac. He is safe. And Boston College wins.
Fastball off the plate for 2 balls, 2 strikes. Monty just got landed on.
There are 2 pigeons roosting right above me, and my can of Pepsi
Smacked into right field. And
Welcome back, college baseball fans, to another episode of ACC Central. We are continuing our team previews with the Pitt Panthers. Hopefully my audio's good. I am currently using my phone due to, I guess, internet issues with my computer, and yet the presentation, the slide deck, is still on the computer. But I'm joined by Micah Butel, Nick Dioli. We're here all together again. Guys, how we doing? I know Nick is dealing with some heat issues, so he's wearing a jacket. And then there's Micah, who's fresh out of the shower, ready and clean for you guys to enjoy his presence.
What are you sharing my business for? You know? I want them to think this is me after a long, hard day of work, not fresh out of the shower, all cleaned up. Man, you know what? I wish that pigeon would have gotten you. You know what? You know, does that give you any PTSD there, Monty? But
Mike is just a pretty boy. That's all. Just a pretty boy every day.
There you go. Well, we're talking about the Pitt Panthers. They've had quite a bit of turnover. Guys, Pitt is kind of stagnated a little bit in their progress. Obviously, Mike Bell had taken them to a level of consistency that was closer to the NCAA tournament than they'd ever really been, but still not quite getting over the hump. Now they've kind of stagnated, and they're kind of sitting in that spot of the bottom part of the ACC, and then trying to get out of it and trying to fight its way towards the bubble. Guys, Pitt baseball, what are we thinking about them as a program right now? Micah?
is it bad to say, Monty, that this might be the toughest job in the ACC? Like,
No,
is Pitt the toughest job? Like, Boston College probably has, obviously a conversational piece too, but I mean, you're in a professional, obviously BC's in a professional sports city too, but you're in a city where, let's be real. I think Pittsburgh's a baseball city when the Pirates are good, but it's not like Boston where there's a little bit more passion for baseball. You obviously have a Big Ten school an hour away. I would argue the Northeast, like New York and New Jersey, have maybe more talent than Ohio and Pennsylvania does from a recruiting standpoint. You obviously still have to have you're warm enough to where you don't have to play at home or on the road, all March and April or February, but you probably should because you're going to freeze if not. It's just, this is a program in all reality, like they are due. What, it's been since 95, Monty, that they've made the tournament. So they're obviously due for it. And I think Coach Bell and this staff has done a good job of knocking on the door. They probably, should have been in a couple of years ago, but here you are. It's hard to be super optimistic when you're in a conference where, fair or not, they don't have a terrible recruiting class or a transfer portal class, but there's 14 schools in the conference that are better every single year. And it's I don't think it's the staff not doing their job. I don't think it's anything to do with the people or even the talent they necessarily have. It's just they don't have the same access as Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, has. And I think that's got to be tough for them. So, I'm a little bit more optimistic than I think some are on Pitt this year, but it is hard to be like, again, in a world where you can't, we want to say all 16 teams make the tournament, like that. We all want that, but we know someone's going to have to get left out. And unfortunately, Pitt's always a very easy scapegoat to be like, well, they're one of the ones you can cross off that won't make it.
Yeah. I'd love for all 16 teams to host in the tournament.
That would be awesome.
Nick, what are your thoughts here on Pitt before we start really diving into this year's roster and what they've lost?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, very tough job. And I think it's one of the tougher jobs in college baseball. And it stinks because, I think Pennsylvania is kind of filled with talent, but all these kids from up north come down south. If you're a really, really good high school baseball player, you're coming down here. You know how many guys I know on the Wake Forest team alone that are from Pennsylvania? Nick Kurtz is from Pennsylvania. Will Ray's from Pennsylvania. Even the guys at Duke, like Santucci, was from Pennsylvania. It's not a program that can just retain its in-state talent. I think when these kids are getting some pretty big looks, they come down south and play for whichever school that constantly makes the NCAA tournament. I think it's tough. They've got a lot to replace. I mean, last year's squad had 2 power bats that they're going to have to figure out to replace.
I guess I should pull up the key departures since you're kind of segueing perfectly into it.
Yeah, I mean, so Zuckerman and Luke Cantwell, you're going to have to replace. And I really felt like those guys could have carried last year's squad to a, at-large bid, maybe make a run in the ACC tournament. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. I mean, those are 2 really good players. Obviously, Cantwell getting drafted by the Padres, and then Zuckerman, who we already talked about, is going to Georgia Tech and making that team a lot better. And why they're such a Omaha favorite. He's going to be a big reason why. Losing those 2 guys, when were 1 game over 500 last year, it's going to be a tough stretch, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of here is they're losing 2/3 of their weekend rotation. That's Ryan Reed. They're losing their ace out of the bullpen, Ethan Fireved, who was fantastic for them. And then, some key guys who could have progressed more. Matt Porter was a key reliever, but Aiden Coleman could have been a critical part of the rotation this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. And also, you're missing the leadership of Jaden Melendez, who was, was there for a while and really, stabilized the leadership on that team. There's a lot to replace here, and it's going to be interesting. That I think they have to get creative in terms of replacing that, and especially with what they did. You'll notice there's a lot of JUCO guys and a lot of Division III. Looking at these guys, before we jump into some of the stuff, is there anybody you want to highlight, Micah, in terms of who they brought in? And this stuff, it doesn't even include that. By the way, a lot of times I include a recruit. It does not include the highly touted freshman Mason Legenda, who was drafted in the 6th round by the Dodgers and opted not to sign. Go ahead, Micah.
Yeah, I think the biggest name that jumps off the page to me that maybe not everyone at home would know about is Trey Fenderson from Presbyterian. I got to see him in the summer. He played in the Appy League in Elizabethton in 2023. He's also, obviously, I got to see a decent amount of Presbyterian when I was working at ETSU. And he's the type of kid that is very, very sound defensively, has a good bat, and has a ton of speed. I think that's going to be kind of fun to see kind of how they utilize his speed. He stole a ton this summer in the, I don't know what they call that league now, the draft league, I think, with Mahoning Valley. I know that used to be a minor league team when I was a young kid, but, he also stole a decent amount when he was at Presbyterian last year. That's going to be a really fun name to watch. And then someone I really enjoyed kind of doing some deep diving on, Monty. Again, you talked about it throughout these previews. I love looking at these D2, D3 JUCO names. David Leslie from Grove City. He was a stud at the D3 level. as someone that thoroughly enjoys watching, as a former D2 athlete myself, watching these kids jump up to the D1 level, like, obviously I'm excited to see what they bring, but I mean, between him and Michael Gray, two incredible D3 arms that we don't know if they're going to translate right at the ACC level, but if they can replicate even 90% of their production at the D3 level, those are some pretty solid arms.
Yeah, I mean, even if let's talk about David Leslie real quick. Even if even if his ERA doubles from jump, it's still a 4.10, which would be a big boost for what Pitt normally has in the rotation. So, that's something to keep an eye on. And there's a familiar UVA name on here, Freddie Benavides, I believe is how it's pronounced there. If you think about it too much, you're going to say it wrong, but he was a guy who got a couple opportunities as a freshman at Virginia, ultimately took the JUCO route as a sophomore, was, I believe, the Appy League pitcher of the year. He was definitely an Appy League all-star. He was sensational. I had him as Pitt's guy of the year. He's a guy that could be a rotation candidate. But I think we're going to talk about the rotation in similar ways to what we talked about with Duke's rotation. And I talked to Mike Bell a couple weeks ago in Columbus, and he mentioned that they're probably going to do a pod system. He didn't like the word pod, but that's the best way to describe it. Piggyback, pod, whatever. But, they've got a bunch of arms. If they get creative and can string together the right combination, they're going to – we know Pitt's always going to be a tough team. They're always going to be a gritty team, but if they can get the combinations right, they become all the more dangerous. Let's talk about that rotation as we've segued in there. And Nick, you see there's only one guy back, but David Leslie, who we talked about, D3 transfer, Freddie Benavides, the other JUCO. You got Michael Savarese, who's a JUCO. He had a 1.71 ERA and a 14-0 record at Pasco Hernando State last year. And then you got Eddie Smink, who is from the Stony Brook. He's got Division I experience. What do you think about these potential rotation options? And to be honest, I put 5 names up here, but basically anybody is in the discussion for Pitt.
Yeah, honestly, they're not that bad. I think we've seen worse Pitt rotations in the past. These guys that are coming in who have had experience or transferring in, they've had some innings under their belt. They've had a lot of appearances. I don't think really it's a bad potential rotation or a bad potential bullpen. Nobody's ERAs. Now you got a couple of guys that are in the high 7s, but in your top, in your top rotation guys, it's okay. I think we have seen worse for Pitt, if I'm not mistaken. So, maybe there's a little hope that the starting pitching can be okay this year.
Real quick, Nick, as an Italian, how do you like the names here in this? You got Nero, you got a Ciancimino, a Spissoku, a Savarese.
Let's see if I can not butcher these.
A bunch of them, but
Monty, are you going to be calling? Did Georgia Tech play this year? I can't remember off the top of my head. Did they play?
Pitt, but I think if I go to Pitt, it'll be UVA at Pitt, so I might get an opportunity to call games there for that series. The problem is that the NFL draft weekend in Pittsburgh, so finding somewhere to stay may be an issue.
Well, my biggest joke is, Monty, I would love to see you pronounce these names. I think that's what I'm.
I would talk to Dom beforehand. I would nail these names down. Actually,
we might have to have you do a video where you just go up to each one of these guys and say your name for me.
Well, Dom is the SID. He's got some Italian as well. So it fits the gritty toughness of like Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, these last names give me Permanti Brothers sandwich names. I'm not gonna lie.
I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say it's very Permanti Brothers, and you also have a lot of Norwegian names, a lot of Wowskis in these relievers. But Monty, you're gonna have to ask everybody how to pronounce their names and make a video.
Shout out to Michael Gray and Sam Bryant. Thank you for 2 easy home runs right there.
Yep. Well, luckily I know Noah Sykowski because he was there last year, so I know how to pronounce his. But some of the new guys, I'm going to have to look up the pronunciation guides. I'm not sure if all the pronunciations are up on the site yet.
Ryan Apeliski.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't look for pronunciation guides and then all of a sudden we get to this, and I'm like, oh no, I should have looked at But I'm really excited about they've got some depth. It feels like they've got a little bit more depth, but they're going to be trying to depend on these JUCO arms, these D3 arms to kind of make that jump. And a guy to kind of look at might be a Central Connecticut State transfer. I mean, this is a guy who was the NEC Freshman of the Year, years ago, Vincent Spizuku, who I probably butchered his name, but this is somebody who could be an X factor for him. But it's an interesting group, but obviously I think Michael Gray's set up to be the closer. And of course, I'll bring up the two freshman arms. They got two freshmen as well. But Micah, who are you looking at here on this list?
I mean, I am so excited for Michael Gray. I think if Pitt does finally kick the door down and get into the tournament, Michael Gray is going to be that lefty out of the pen in some high leverage situations. Again, I mean, there's a bunch of arms that are going to need to step up. Obviously, you need the rotation to figure it out. But, I mean, there's been a lot of times I feel like in recent years, Monty, we've watched Pitt, they get good outings from their starters. And then, like it's almost like if you can get the Pitt's bullpen down a run or two, you feel like you're still in that game. And I think if you can kind of get that closed down, situation again, and he's pitched in big situations at Denison. So it's not like I know it's a different stage, but let's be real. When you're a competitor playing in front of 40 people or playing in front of 5,000 people, you're locked into the situation. You're not locked into the noise. So I think that's going to be, we always talk about those X factors, right? Like Michael Gray having the ability to be a shutdown, high leverage lefty out of the pen for Pitt could be the difference in Pitt making the tournament. And again, unfortunately, being what Pitt has been since '95, which has just been on the outside looking in. So I know I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table. Because again, if he especially settles into that closer role and can kind of be that shutdown guy, none of us here think Pitt's not talented enough to make the tournament. It's just, can they get everything to click? And I think figuring out that bullpen is going to be a major key for them this season.
Yeah, figuring out that whole combination, right? And here's what I kind of projected. And again, it's a little bit hard to project a team that plans to do pods, so you can't really know who's going to be in there. But Drew Lafferty is returning. He was the Sunday or sometimes midweek guy, mostly the Sunday guy. He finished really strong, if I recall correctly, with I think he may have pitched against West Virginia or Penn State and was really, really good in one of those games. But, I brought him in. I just, as default, put him as the Friday guy. But David Leslie, somebody we talked about, we're both really excited about. Like I said, we could double his ERA if he's making the jump, but he's still going to be a 4.10. I mean, he was 2.05 at Grove City College with 84 strikeouts and 74.2 innings. He's a strike thrower, only 24 walks. Really like him. And then, there we go. The relief ace, Mikey Gray there. And then Freddie, again, I keep thinking about too much, Bruvides there. And then Eddie Smink, who has experience. But, again, it's kind of wide open in terms of the pitching roles here. But this seems to be where Pitt's success is going to hinge on, right? You guys agree with that? It's the pitching and how well it kind of solidifies.
Yeah, I feel like Pitt always finds a way to grind away gritty at bats and be a pesky offense. So yes, I think if we're gonna circle what does Pitt need to figure out to make the tournament, it's probably gonna be pitching.
Yeah, I agree too.
All right, you guys have any? Nick, do you have any comments on this potential pitching staff or what you might see differently?
I mean, I think if Pitt's going to steal a couple of series against some ACC teams, I think it's going to have to start with Drew Lafferty. I mean, this is a guy who's coming back, who's had a lot of experience, who's pitched to a lot of different guys in the ACC. I think Friday is going to be a big day for Pitt every single week. So if you don't start off with a big win, I think you kind of feel like these guys have to really step up if Drew can't get you the dub.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting to see. There he is pictured there. But let's talk about the offense, the depth chart here. And like you said, a big thing they have to do is kind of replace some of the power guys in terms of Luke Cantwell and Ryan Zuckerman. And here's a look at the entire group there, just everybody up there. The outfield actually looks pretty strong, especially, you're going to look at probably 4 starters with the DH coming from the outfield as well. So you get Lorenzo Carrier back. I think if he was healthy the whole season, they have a little bit better record in the ACC. Obviously, he had a long stretch during the middle of the year where he was injured. Caden Doolin is back. We know that guy can just hit. He's moving over to shortstop. I obviously Kendra, I think, is the safer defensive option at shortstop, but doesn't provide the offensive value that Caden Doolin does, and it prevents somebody like Trey Fenderson from getting in the lineup who you want to see in the lineup. Kai Wagner is going to be a guy to watch, I think, at third base. I think they've done a really good job kind of finding a replacement for Zuckerman at third. But, Nick, talk to me about who you're highlighting in this lineup here.
Yeah, who I wanted to talk about earlier was Kai Wagner. I mean, because we talked about how you're going to replace Zuck. And I think they did a pretty good job on who they're going to have replacing him. I mean, this kid batted .328. Last year, if this projected lineup, he would have led the team in home runs with 19, and he had 57 RBIs. So how that's going to translate to the ACC, we're going to have to see. I mean, no one is Zuck, but we'll see. But I'm keeping a big eye on Kai Wagner this year for Pitt.
That's a good point. He also walked more than he struck out, 36-28.
Yeah.
I mean that's 37 extra base hits, still at the D1 level. Northern Colorado out there in the Horizon,
I think.
Summit League. Come on, boys.
Summit.
Sorry, we don't do bracketology, bro. Looking at that, Micah, who do you want to highlight on this that really excites you?
Monty, this is a very underrated infield. I think this could be a very sneaky good infield.
The whole offense. That's why when we were talking about replacing Zuckerman and Cantwell, I think the offense top to bottom has improved from last year.
Yeah, Carter Diedorf was one that I really enjoyed looking into. So he obviously, technically, I don't think I'm mistaken. West Georgia was still D2 last year, I believe. They weren't last year?
D1, they played Georgia Tech twice.
Are you sure they weren't transitioning? Because
it was first year as D1.
Because their first year of FCS football was this year. And how could they have played baseball before they played football at the D1 level? It doesn't make sense.
Well, because the calendar year starts in
but you go off academic, you don't go off the calendar. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Whether they were D1 or D2, they were transitioning regardless. But he was at North Greenville at the D2 level, a D2 powerhouse before West Georgia. So he was very successful there. Looking back on some of the stuff, like looking at some of his stats, like he's got a high slug, which I think is obviously going to be nice and plays well at Pitt. And then you've got, again, like Kai Wagner. I mean, Nick already highlighted him, but as someone that's going to see Northern Colorado in person this year when they are playing out in Utah, like I did a little bit of deep diving because I know nothing about Northern Colorado baseball, and I was genuinely curious, like,
wow,
where do they play? Are they even a good program? And like low key, like he's really good. Like he's a high level kid that I found some blog, some guy that writes about Summit League baseball talking about how Kai Wagner was snubbed for an all-conference selection. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't follow it last year, so I'd be lying if I said I knew whether he was snubbed or not. But like, fair or not, like he has the accolades to prove that like this could be, again, is it an upgrade from what they had last year? Hard to say that considering what they had.
Depends on how you look at Zuckerman. Obviously, I think Zuckerman, especially this year, Zuckerman's going to be another level than what we saw last year. The swing and miss was huge. This is a very different style of player.
Yeah.
Correct. And I think, like, if you think about it again, like, I think you nailed it, Monty. Like, this is a lineup that you look at and you're like, top to bottom, it's probably better than last year. Is it astronomically better? Is it one of the top 5 lineups in the conference? Probably not. But it's a lot more improved. And again, this is a dangerous team. We've seen them have success and be scrappy. I mean, as a Virginia fan, Monty, I hate seeing Pitt. I hate them. I hate watching them come to play Charlottesville because they always find a way. They always do it. So, for me, like, it's going to be a lot of fun to see if these transfers click. Because if they do, I mean, this could be a very dangerous lineup. And again, I mean, we haven't talked about him yet, but one of the most underrated players in college baseball is behind the plate in Sebastian Piscasgrita. So,
yeah, and who's coming in? Who I currently have projected on the bench? Jackson Cook, the Mr. Pinch Hit extraordinaire. He went 6 for 22 as a pinch hitter last year with 4 home runs and a double. That's bonkers. AJ Nessler, very, very good in left field. That's a guy who hit 324 for Pitt last year, 16 extra base hits. Was a key part at the top of the lineup. But Mason Legenza is somebody that we really need to be excited about. This is a 6'5", pro frame. This is a guy the Dodgers drafted in the 6th round, decided to come to college. This is a big get, probably the biggest recruit they've had at Pittsburgh in my memory. I mean, this is exciting stuff. This is a guy who has legit power. It's going to be interesting to see how he is ramped up and brought in, but he's a guy that I'm really excited to see, the freshman who could be a legit ACC Freshman of the Year candidate.
Yeah.
So we kind of covered everybody here. I think for the most part, we did mention Pisacreta, which is good. Julian Irizarry is a guy who I think could be a breakout sophomore. Doesn't have a ton of pop at the plate, but a very high hit tool, good approach. Derek Tarpley is a guy who was drafted a couple of years ago before he went to Youngstown State. He didn't really stay healthy last year. He's got 5-tool possibility. So it's a really intriguing offensive profile here for Pitt that, I'm confident they'll be able to score enough runs. The question will be what we talked about with the pitching. Are they going to find the right combination of guys to really make some noise in the conference? Here's a look at that potential batting order there with Caden Doolin doing some sort of dance there at second base. I've highlighted in the pictures Lorenzo Carrier as well and Caden Doolin. Look at that. I mean, look at that possible lineup there with, you've got Lingenza at batting 7th, the guy that I just said could be ACC Freshman of the Year material, batting 7th. Trey Fender, Micah highlighted, he hit 374 last year. I have him in the 8 spot. This is a lineup that could be very dangerous and a problem for ACC pitching.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a team that if everything clicks, can make the tournament, especially with this offense. I mean, this is they are going to be. Like I always say, like, oh, I can't wait to watch them. Like, genuinely, I'm going to find myself like trying to watch as much Pitt as I can early in the year because I am genuinely curious. Like if again, Trey Fenderson, Kai Wagner, if those guys recreate what they did at their mid-major schools before they came up, like this is going to be a underrated lineup and a pesky. Again, that's the one thing that we love about these Pitt teams is they are always gritty. They're always pesky. Like they're not an easy out. Even if they're the worst team talent-wise in the conference, they are not going to be an easy out. They will always fight and claw and make every single at-bat matter. Every pitch is going to count with them. They do a great job of working counts. Again, I mean, feel like we talk about Pitt with hit by pitches all the time and walks, and I mean, it's just gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see what they put together.
Yeah, just for reference, Wagner, Doolin, and Nessler are all guys who walked, and Fenderson. Those 4 guys all walked more than they struck out last year, which is really a really good sign of potential success, especially if you're able to put up extra base hits like some of these guys do. So, Nick, what are your thoughts on the lineup before we kind of talk about the schedule?
Yeah, I think this lineup has a lot of potential. I mean, Pisacreta, it's in the 6 hole. I mean, I saw this kid in Winston-Salem last year, and he tore the cover off the ball. Lorenzo Carrier, I'm a big fan of this year. I think he's going to do some big things, especially in that 4 hole. This lineup has a very high ceiling, man. Like even losing those 2 guys, I think replacing them, Pitt did an okay job. Like again, I'm very excited to see what Kai Wagner can do. This has the potential to be like, a top half ACC batting order, man. I think they're very, very intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of it depends also on their guys kind of staying healthy because there's not a ton of depth. You've got some guys who, have experience on the bench, but not a ton of offensive production. But talking about the schedule, we got some key opponents here. Obviously, they open in Florida again against Western Michigan in a 3-game series in a neutral site. They've got a tournament at Corpus Christi, which Micah talked about. What's that look for you now? Now Mike is thinking, I
thought that tournament was in California.
Is it?
I thought so.
Double check. It could be.
I'm going to look while you keep talking, Monty. But because I tried to look and see when I could see ACC teams that don't normally come to Texas, and I don't remember being. Oh no, it is in Corpus. You're right. I guess I just assumed because 2 California teams were coming to Texas that it would be the other way. Like more teams would go out. Okay, I might get to go see some Pitt this year. Cool. Anyways, continue.
There you go. They got UNC Greensboro at home. They faced them on the road last year, but then they do go to California. They've got San Jose State on the road in a series. And then Santa Clara, I'm assuming that's Pitt's spring break because they're staying in California through the week to face Stanford. They come back, they host Wake. They get to go to West Virginia and Penn State, and they host Penn State. They don't play 2 games against those 2 teams. They only play 1, and they finish up at home against Notre Dame, which is a big, big series. Other than that, they've got, they host UVA, they host Georgia Tech. It's some intriguing series to be sure. They go on the road to UNC and FSU, but we'll start with Micah, who seems to be kind of our schedule analyzer. His quick reactions tend to be pretty quick and good. So let's see if he's got something immediately for us that he spotted.
I've got nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I really like the schedule, honestly. Like, I like that they're going out and staying in California for over a week. Like, they're doing San Jose State and then the midweek with Santa Clara before Stanford. I like that. Then obviously they return home, soon after, right, to get, was it Georgia Tech? Yeah, Georgia Tech, but or Youngstown State, I guess, in the midweek, but then Georgia Tech. They have some of their tougher weekends, being on the road, obviously going to Florida State, going to UNC, going to Louisville. Those are going to be tough. But, getting Notre Dame at home the last weekend of the season, like, that's pretty beneficial if you're fighting for a bubble spot. You're gonna get RPI points in May, but just by going to Florida State and UNC. So if you can, go 2-4 there and take the series, and then go 4-0 in your last 4 home games with Penn State and Notre Dame, like that, depending on where you're sitting after, the first 3 months, might put you in. Again, getting Virginia at home, nice little piece there. I mean, getting California to come to you, not bad, right? Like, I mean, this is a schedule that plays out well to where, again, if you're sitting, in April, a game or 2 under 500 in ACC play, and you didn't completely stink in the non-conference, you're knocking on the door. And I think if you're Pitt this season, you just want a seat at the table. You want to have a chance those last couple weeks, and then obviously going into Charlotte for the ACC tournament. So I like the schedule for them. I think, again, like, I'm more excited to know they're at Corpus. I might, honestly, February 20th is kind of screaming my name for Long Beach State and Pitt. But, for me, like, those are going to be RPI games because at least you're not playing at home. And, I think I mean, in all honesty, Pitt should go 3. Like, I really hope Pitt is sitting at 7-0 when they host UNCG at the end of the month, which Pitt's kind of had a tougher schedule to start, obviously going to Vegas, 2 years ago, was it? And then, last year, were they down in Puerto Rico last year? They did something big, I thought, last year.
Port
Charlotte, maybe, like with UConn and something. Anyways, like, it feels like a lot more manageable. Get your feet wet February than it's kind of been in years past for Pitt. So that alone too is very helpful. So I'm excited to kind of see where they're sitting. I mean, obviously they're doing neutral stuff, but their first true road weekend is not until they go to San Jose State. I mean, not terrible.
There you go. All right, talk to me, Nick. What do you think about the schedule?
Yeah, I think Pitt really challenges themselves on the road. I mean, Micah pointed out UNC and Florida State, that's huge in May. You also have to go on the road to Louisville. And then that whole stretch in California, I mean, you're buying yourself some like credit right there. And your home slate, I mean, you're still kind of challenging yourself. Like UNCG is going to be a tough out. Wake Forest, obviously, Georgia Tech, who we are all high on, Virginia. Like, there are some series where it's like, I think Pitt could win this. Like, say they have a good February. Are we going to go into March thinking like, hey, maybe they can steal a series at Louisville, depending on how well they've played. Maybe they can take one against Georgia Tech at home, So I think it plays out pretty well. I think Micah kind of just hit the nail on the head. There's nothing I don't like about it. I think if you can just start off on a hot streak and start off 6-0, 7-0, Pitt could be hot on the radar, man. I mean, I think this is a very opportunistic schedule here for the Panthers. And like Notre Dame at the end, I'll also add, Micah said for a bubble situation, seeding in the ACC tournament, that's going to be huge too. Because how long have we been doing this where Notre Dame and Pitt, like you could swap them? That's going to be huge.
Anyway, I spotted something that I would like to have changed about this schedule, and it's home and away games against both West Virginia and Penn State.
Yeah.
So that's the only complaint I have.
You wish they were playing West Virginia at home?
Yep.
And Penn State on the road?
Yep.
Why is that?
Because I like the home and away games. I like having two.
Oh, like you want them to do like 1-1, not just one standalone. Gotcha. I thought you meant like quite literally swap, like Penn State go on the road, West Virginia at home. I'm like, why?
For a second, it sounded like that to me too. You're not the only one, Mike.
What?
I thought the same thing.
Last year when Pitt played West Virginia as the home team, didn't they do it at PNC Park? So like that's why I was kind of like
last year PNC was
that was Penn State.
The year before was West Virginia, because last year their home game at West Virginia, they walked off with like 5 runs in the 9th.
Gotcha.
All right, so let's talk about where we see Pitt. How are we feeling about the Pitt Panthers and their tournament chances, Micah?
Here's some free advertising for Monty and a bunch of key people's hard work. The Diamond Report, incredible read. I have it saved on my phone and bookmarked. It's actually an app on my phone now, Monty. I don't know if you know that, but you can do that in the new iPhone update. So now it's basically like a glorified just click and it opens. Monty, do you remember where you put the Pittsburgh Panthers in your ranking?
I do.
They are not the worst team in the ACC, in my opinion. I don't think that they're even the second worst team in the ACC. Again, am I saying they're an NCAA tournament team at this time? No. But I do think that this is a team that maybe I'm just higher on the transfers. Again, there's a ton of question marks, and I've talked about it with all of our team previews. Like, there's a lot of, like, I feel like half the conference we know a lot about, and the other half we'll have to see. But I trust what Mike Bell and this team is going to do from a grittiness standpoint, from being just a scrappy group. I like how the schedule plays out this year. I genuinely think that they could go undefeated in the month of February, build confidence going into that road trip to California, where they obviously are playing a San Jose State team who's good, but let's call it what it is. We do believe that Pitt should win that series. And then you've got Stanford, a team that we'll get to them when we preview them in a day or two, or the next show, where there's a lot of question marks about Stanford, and who knows what confidence can do for this Pitt ball club. So I think they're going to be sitting in that 13 to 14 range, maybe in the conference tournament, maybe at 12. They're still going to be playing day one. But again, they're an upset or two away in the ACC tournament from increasing their resume. And again, depending on how they do in that midweek with West Virginia and how they do in some of these conference series, like they don't get swept, which I don't see them getting swept a ton in their conference series. Who knows, man? I think like Pitt could be a very sleepy, like lowest odds to make the NCAA tournament in the ACC that could get in there. Like if you're a betting man, that's one that I would circle the value on. I think Pitt can be a very dangerous group, and I'm not looking forward to when Virginia goes there.
I would like to say I hope you are correct, Micah. Problem with you being right here. Somebody had to be put last, and I ended up putting Pitt last in the Diamond Report. But I would love for that to be incorrect. But Nick, what are your thoughts? Also, way to do an advertisement for the Diamond Report and also take a shot at me at the same time. Well done.
You're welcome. But seriously, buy the magazine. It is worth every penny. Monty obviously led the ACC stuff, so if an ACC person, I'm telling you, buy it. Like, I'm so excited for the hard copy. Like, I mean, I have every single one of the Phil Steele college football magazines. This is 24, so this isn't even this year's, since 2017. As someone that loves college baseball at the same rate, maybe even more now than I do college football, like to finally have a physical magazine. Like when I was in middle school, I would get the lacrosse yearbook every single year. Like I still have some of the Baseball Americas from those years. Like I am so excited to have a physical magazine that covers the entire sport from top to bottom. Well done to Monty and the whole crew. I want to make sure the whole crew gets their flowers, but Monty's obviously on the show. So tip of the hat to you, my friend. seriously worth the $20 for the PDF. It's $50 if you want the PDF and the hard copy. I think it's worth $50. I mean, Phil Steele magazines are $30 or $25 when you buy the football one. And like, again, there's 7 other competing magazines. This is a one of one. Like, no one's ever done this before. So huge credit to those guys. And again, it's not a bunch of BS. Like, there's a lot of time. Again, do I agree with everyone's like picks and previews? No. But this is a sport that, like, again, that's the fun of it, right? It actually allows a baseline of things. So incredible job by the group. So Monty, since I know you don't want to be the one that brags about your hard work, I'll do it for you. Incredible job. Seriously, I have read it. I literally read it for about an hour. I was reading about the SWAC and the WCC last night before I went to bed because those are conferences I didn't know. Like, I did my bracketology, but could use a little bit more learning on. So great job to everyone.
Andrew had a lot of fun trying to figure out the SWAC, talking with SI coaches, because there's not a ton online without having to go specifically. So shout out to Andrew who had to deal with that. But Nick, talk to me about where you see Pitt.
I think this Pitt team has a more well-balanced lineup that can do a lot of damage. Obviously, we've talked about the 2 power guys that they will be missing, but throughout the entire diamond, it's the most even I've seen Pitt, where like there's not a whole lot of weaknesses. I think they can be very scrappy. I think they can be, a challenge for a lot of ACC teams. I think the question this year is the pitching. I want to pick them so bad, but I already picked Boston College as one of my bubble teams to like get into the tournament this year because I really love what Todd Interdonato is doing up there. I think he will make it in his 3rd year. But again, would I be surprised if Pitt made it? Absolutely not. I think this team has a very, very high ceiling and can be an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. That pitching just needs to kind of figure itself out. It's not horrible. We've seen worse Pitt teams, but I am a big fan of this lineup. But for now, I just think the ACC is too talented. But I think Pitt is on the right direction. But would it surprise me? No, not at all.
Yeah, the pitching situation kind of scares me. I think they've got some dudes, but it's going to be a matter of figuring out those spots. And I'm just not as confident as you guys are, but I hope I am wrong. But we will be back tomorrow night with Stanford. Until then, it just is less.